Hey, Randy Joe here, and this is 1001 Reviews, where I plan on reviewing every single album from the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book. And today we are looking at NEU's 1975 album, NEU 75. According to the book, NEU 75 was released under the Brain label, produced by Conrad Plank with art direction by NEU itself. Nationality Germany. Running time 42 minutes and 7 seconds. The interesting thing about NEU 75 is that it is very similar in style and tone to that of Brian Eno's 70 projects Before and After Sciences and Another Green World, where the focus is far more on the ambience and the more atmospheric sounds rather than the lyrical content. So with that in mind, we get 6 tracks altogether, the first 3 being heavily ambient, while the later 3 end up being more experimental krautrock. Now, admittedly, I do have a bias and a general love for ambient music, and for that reason altogether, I do quite enjoy the first 3 tracks especially, because they do bring a lot to the genre and a lot to the field and kind of pioneer certain sounds that would be used so much more later on in the genre. The first track, Easy, spelled I-S-I, is a track that is extremely optimistic in tone, with a continuously beating drum in the background and a gentle piano playing over top. They sort of coast next to one another while synths kind of come in and out of the instrumentation. The overall tone of the song and its optimism and enjoyment is so rich and delicate in texture that it is just quite beautiful and mesmerizing altogether on its own. And in all honesty, I love every second of this song here, which is interesting as this isn't even my favorite of the track list. The second track, Seeland, might be my favorite. I'm not sure. It kind of competes with the third one. However, Seeland is a far more relaxing one as opposed to the first song, and now strips back the instrumentation a lot more. It's very slow and continually beating up with these synths and very slow drumming as well. The synths here especially know exactly when to go heavy in the song and when to hold back, creating a very grand and built up track that is just constantly coming at the listener very slowly. The song also gives off a tone of accomplishment almost, and it feels very rewarding for the listener. I really enjoy how the instrumental of this track eventually fades away, giving into the simple sounds of a storm. You've got rain coming in and pitter-pattering at your ear, while thunderous claps are heard very far in the distance, before the song's synths and drumming slowly comes back, but far more quiet, far more distant, and this time actually played in reverse. I really enjoy this song as well. It is one of my favorites. It is very slow and very gradual in its instrumentation and super delicate with just how they choose to play this song. And then the third song I think is actually my favorite. I don't know, I go back and forth on this one, but Leb Wohl, the third song, means farewell, and that's exactly what this song sort of goes into lyrically, but very, very softly. It is the most relaxing and the most ambient of all the 3 tracks here, and is incredibly atmospheric, far more atmospheric than any other song on this album. You have waves that come in crashing over the listener. Very slowly a ticking sound comes into play, almost like a clock, but sounds almost more like a metronome that ticks back and forth, while a voice eases into the track very slowly in these drawn out hues. Each word is pronounced very long to create more of a sound rather than words, and kind of builds on the atmosphere of this track. The focus here is entirely more on sound than it is lyrics. But eventually this voice does become more and more honed in and more clear as the track goes on. The words become less and less drawn out, and the singer speaks of memories of the past and a goodbye, like a farewell. It is very bittersweet in its delivery and its tone, and I feel like it is a song that many people will hear and be taken back to a certain memory of their own past, to a time where they are remembering something that they may miss in a bittersweet way, but they are glad that it happened. Sort of like a lost love. But this 3-song streak of ambient music is quickly wiped away by the 4th song, Hero, which is a proto-punk song, and it is very interesting as now the soft ambient music and soft ambient sounds are completely gone. The singer of this one, Klaus Dinger, is very much like the singer of Sex Pistols, John Lydon, yet this track was pre-Sex Pistols and almost pre-punk in general, making this a proto-punk song. On top of that, the drumming of this one is far more constant and far more rattly in the background, as well as some synths that come in and out to play as well, sort of capitalizing on this krautrock sound that I have talked about. The influence of this track alone actually impacted David Bowie greatly on his album Heroes and impacted Sex Pistols in general as a band. So the influence of this track is definitely noted and definitely heard of in future music along the way. Very much ahead of its time in 1975. And then with the 5th song, E-Music, we get another track that is more instrumentally based but less ambient and not very punk either, maybe only in sound and less in vocals, because the vocals here are not here at all. There are no vocals, and instead we are focused far more on the drumming and the synth playing of this duo, NEU, where they blend together so smoothly and so well that this song feels very much like a combination of two great minds coming together as one. You got incredibly high-paced drumming, sort of kind of continuing off of Hero, and heavier synth than the previous tracks on here. On top of that, this song uses a very heavy use of a phasing effect. So it feels like not only does the sound of the song go left to right in your head, but it also goes further back in your mind and further to the front. By doing this, you have a sound more than a song that is constantly shifting around in your brain, and it feels almost like a worm is digging around, and this is quite literally a earworm song. And the length of the song at 9 minutes never feels too long or drawn out, as it does add quite a bit constantly in and out of the track, constantly weaving in different instrumentation and different styles to create something that is everlasting over its 9-minute runtime. Again, I specifically really enjoy the phasing effect of the song. I think it's really interesting because the way this song feels just as an experience is something I haven't really felt that often in music. And then the last track, After 8, is another one of the proto-punk songs, but instead not as punk as Heroes, but still very much proto-punk. The vocals here are definitely more understandable and more clear than they were on Hero. It's not being shouted at you like it was in Hero, but it is still delivered in a hushed and raspy way. They also shift from being hushed and raspy to also very straightforward and simple to just straight up nasal sounding. Each line repeats, "Help me through the night," alongside a very rapid drum line once more. And there's also this huffing noise that kind of jumps from ear to ear back and forth. Rather than staying in one point, it feels like the huffing is constantly going back and forth between your head. Another production point that I find to be very intriguing and interesting to listen to, especially with headphones. I really love this song, but not as much as some of the others on the album, but still definitely worth the listen. So overall, what we get on this album is a very incredibly well-mixed, well-blended, and well-produced album of ambience and krautrock. You have the best of both worlds here kind of just coming at you. So if you are a fan of either, I highly recommend giving this a listen. You've got phasing effects, drumming, piano work, synths, nature effects even thrown in for the ambient tracks that really come together quite cohesively and quite beautifully. The soft rating of this album comes to a 9.2 out of 10, and I will harden this rating to a 9 out of 10. Just a slight drop down, but still very much an incredible album. I will also give this album a E for essential, definitely essential, because I think there is a lot to offer here both in ambience and krautrock. So definitely give it a listen. Especially the first 3 tracks. Definitely give those a listen, as I do think, as far as ambience go, these are quite incredible tracks to sort of ease you into the genre. Alright, that pretty much does it for this video. This has been 1001 Reviews, where I plan on listening to every single album from the 1001 Albums to Listen to Before You Die book. And let's go ahead and see what the next album that we're going to listen to is. All right. Random number generator. 1 to 1001. 818 is the next album we are listening to, which is 818 is Divine Comedy Casanova. So Divine Comedy Casanova will be the next album that we are listening to. And on Tuesday, I will also have a review out for Duran Duran's Rio. So listen to Rio for Tuesday and listen to Divine Comedy's Casanova for Friday, because I would love to build a community of people who also follow along and listen to each album in the forthcoming weeks going forward. This has been Randy Joe, signing off.